Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you through the Uncharted Realms passives, when to take which passives and why they're good, but also kind of which ones to look for certain playstyles. So there's no one size fits all, there's no one tree which is going to be good for everyone, but with this information you'll know what you want to pick and what you want to farm. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in general, if you're a mapping kind of playstyle, you're going to want to pick up Secrets of the Stones and Enduring Influence. These two are very, very powerful for mapping. It makes it so that your actual rewards and your costs are reduced and increased respectively. So if you take a look at this one, sextant modifiers have +1 additional use. That's basically 33% more sextants. Or like 33% cheaper sextants, however you want to look at it. So it's actually incredibly powerful. You should be using sextants on all your maps. The modifiers are crazy. They give you like tons of lead mechanics, they give you tons of monsters, and of course, as a result of that, more map sustain, which is very, very powerful. So Enduring Influence, if you're a mapper and you're using sextants, no brainer, should definitely be one of the ones you pick up first. And it also gives you a chance to drop currency off bosses, which is actually going to add up in the long run. 1 in 20 maps will drop you some extra juice, which is pretty good. Next one you want to be looking at, as long as you are using some craftable watchstones here, which, you know, in the end game, when you've got an end game mapping build, you will have. So if you're using craftable watchstones, another no-brainer is Secrets of the Stones. Let's say that you are farming Breach in Lex Proxima, you know, it just amps up your watchstones. It essentially allows you to have a 5th craftable watchstone slot, which is basically very, very powerful. Of course, there are some rounding issues here, but that's pretty complicated. We won't get into that. But if you're using craftable watchstones and you think that they're pretty awesome and you're really excited about the craftable watchstones you're using, well, you should be taking Secrets of the Stones as well. All right. Let's move on to the Shaper and Elder tree. So Remnants of the Past is pretty much going to be almost on every single person's tree here. It is absolutely insane. A 6% chance to drop a Guardian map is crazy. Guardian maps do sell very, very well all league, and they will always be in demand. So having a 6% chance to drop them straight up from any map boss is absolutely crazy. If you're farming Guardians themselves, they can then you can get a refund. If you're farming maps, you can get them to sell to other players. So pretty much everyone always takes this passive point. It's one of the first ones you should take because it basically amps up your profits from all content you do, unless you're just sitting there farming one boss, which is a viable strategy. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and I would highly recommend this one as one of your first points. So yeah, very, 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 very strong there. All right, next one up is Guardian's Aid. If you're farming Guardian's Invitations, if you're just looking to get into bossing, or you know, if you're looking to make some currency on your boss and you're just brand new, Guardian's Aid is completely crazy. If you're killing Guardians at all, if you're doing invitations at all, you should have this passive point. It's essentially 50% more unique items and fragments from the Guardians. The unique items isn't too relevant anymore, but the fragments is crazy. So basically, you know, like if your map costs 20 chaos, like your Hydra map, and the fragment is 18 chaos, well, you have a 50% chance to double the fragment that you just got, which is absolutely insane. So very, very powerful. Having said that though, it does make the encounter significantly harder, but if you can take it, this is going to be an absolutely crazy consistent amount of money, which you can leverage throughout the league. Very, very powerful. Next up, this one's definitely a lot more niche. If you're planning on killing Shaper or Elder, this is a point that you need to have. Shaper bases do sell. They're very, very good. They're 86 and people do buy them. But the real big one here is the Elder has 10% chance to drop a Watcher's Eye. Now, the drop chance of Watcher's Eye is anywhere between around 25 to 30%. So this is essentially 33% more profit from farming Elder, and it is going to make it so that you make more money from farming that boss. So if you're doing feed invitations, or you plan to, or you're just farming Elder or Shaper, this is a great one to pick up, and it's going to be super duper good. Of course, there are the small nodes here. They have an additional chance to drop an influence item. That is going to definitely add up because it almost goes to 100% here. Actually, it does go to 100%, and that's going to mean that you drop a Shaper item off of, or Elder item off of all of the Guardians as well. So you might get a pretty awesome item from that as well. So we're kind of going over the Shaper and other stuff now. It's awesome to pick up. Basically, Remnants of the Past, absolute staple. Pretty much everyone's going to take this. And then we've got Guardian's Aid for farming and also Gaze into the Abyss. Let's move on to Cyrus and the Conquerors. So if you're planning on engaging with Cyrus or or the Conquerors, and you're doing them at all, this is a fantastic tree to spec into. Of course, you can't have it all, and we'll go over which ones are best for different strategies, but this is also a very, very viable strategy because Awakened Gems are very, very expensive, and also some of the items of Cyrus are very, very expensive as well. Like Savior is pretty good, Awakened Orb is pretty good, etc. Alright, so the first point here gives you a 25% chance on completing a map for the Conqueror to have double its progress. So what that means is if you completed one map, it'll give you 2 bars instead of 1, so 25% chance. This is very, very strong. It's basically going to allow you to progress a lot faster, and it's super, super good. Next up, we got the +1 Awaken level. This is kind of strong. It's going to increase the amount of loot you get from Cyrus. Probably, no one's proven this, but it definitely does make him harder, and it is thought that it gives him more chance to give loot. That is the jury's out on that one still, but the main thing that it gives you is it amps up your Awakener bonus. So you can see here that it says 4.5% chance to drop like Shaper and Elder Guardian instead of 4. You get additional chance to drop like unique items and stuff like that. So it does give you a bit more juice. It's pretty good. It's basically like 13 or 14% more Awakener bonus, which is actually pretty strong. This is definitely one of the last points you'll take if you're a bossing build, because you're not relying too much on Awakener level, but it's pretty damn good as well. Next up, we got Thaumaturgical Awakening. Basically, if you're farming Cyrus, you need to have this. It's actually crazy how much profit this adds to your Cyrus kills. Very, very powerful indeed. I think this is just broken actually, and I wouldn't be doing Cyrus without this. And if I was killing Cyrus at all, I would definitely have this point in. Next up, we'll go over to Synthesis real quick. So this one is, of course, just another just straight up drop multiplier. Basically, 1 in 100 maps, you're going to get a Synthesis map. This stacks with the Synthesis bonus from other mechanics in the game. But yeah, generally 1 in 100 maps, so you can do the math. If a Synthesis map is, 100 chaos, this is an extra chaos per map. It's nothing crazy, but it's kind of a nice little bonus when you do get it. But this is just a point that you would drop if you were going to go for something like a Cyrus farming, but it is kind of like a flex spot. If you don't have anything else you want to take, you can take this. But yeah, it is what it is. Next up, if you're planning on doing Synthesis map farming, so you're doing the invitation for Synthesis, or you're trying to farm like the rings, or you're doing Cortex farming, you would take Synthetic Source and Vivid Memories. They are fairly niche. Not many people spec into these. They're fairly on the weak side in terms of like money per hour, because Synthesis maps are very, very RNG. They are heavily dictated by the price of the feed invitation when it comes to Cortex. So these points, while kind of interesting and cool, are definitely not massive money makers. But you can obviously kind of get lucky with them, and you could get a really good drop. But in general, this is going to be a fairly inconsistent money making strategy, but you can go for it if you want. I'll quickly run through what it does. So essentially, it says unique bosses of Synthesis maps drop well-rolled fractured items. Essentially, this means that you're going to get, hopefully, some good fractured items. But in reality, this is not going to happen. You're not going to get in crazy, well-rolled physical-based weapon or anything like that. The real line here is that Synthesis unique items drop in areas have 3 implicit modifiers. So what this means is that when you're farming like Synthesis rings, and you get a fire Herald of Ashering, for example, it could have a high chance of having a curse on hit flammability on it, or maybe some other thing on it. And this is actually incredibly powerful. If you're farming the Synthesis rings, it's a no-brainer to have this. But I'm not sure how lucrative that is, and it may be a little bit hit on this. But if you are doing that content, you probably do want to have Synthetic Source, and you may get really, really lucky and get a ring with like 20 exalts, which is pretty cool. The other one here is Vivid Memories. Vivid Memories essentially gives you a chance to drop Synthesis bases, which are pretty strong from the monsters on the map when you're clearing it. But the caveat here is that Synthesis bases are actually incredibly cheap this league due to the fact that Ultimatum awards them fairly frequently, and you get a lot of them basically. A lot of the most powerful bases are not as expensive as they were in past leagues, so it makes this strategy even weaker, which is unfortunate. But, Synthesis, while still strong, is definitely not as strong as it was last league, and it is going to be a heavily RNG strategy. So, let's move on, and then we'll get to the trees and how you should allocate your points. First of all, we have close allies. This is very similar to the synthesis neural pathways. It's kind of a supplementary kind of pick. If you've got nothing else that's really lighting your fire, or you've got some points left over, close allies is a nice pick. Basically, it gives you a 10% chance to get an Atlas mission when you complete a map, which is very strong indeed when you're considering the master missions. And of course, we lost a big chunk of chance to get master missions from the Awakener bonus. So this is actually a good pick. Jun is extremely powerful, Alva is extremely powerful, and this is going to allow you to get more of them, and it's very, very strong indeed. Very, very good pick, and I think this is a good pickup on your 6th or 5th point. All right, let's move on to master missions. So these ones in the past have also been incredibly powerful, but have since been nerfed. So Master of the Atlas here is just a 5% chance to grant an additional Zana mission. Zana is no longer as powerful as she once was. She may be abused in some other way in the future in terms of maybe delirium mirrors or something along those lines. But right now, no one is really using her, and there's no strategies that involve her. So this node is definitely nowhere near as strong as it used to be. Next up, we have, again, more Zana stuff. Basically, this one allowed you to double the amount of maps that she offered you. You could use this to get double the amount of synthesis maps, double the amount of harvest maps. You can use this still to probably get like double the amount of delirium mirror maps. But this has definitely been is a lot weaker now. People are not pursuing harvest like they once were, and they actually nerfed the occurrence rate of synthesis maps, which is kind of brutal. So yeah, this is definitely not as powerful as it once was. But if you were to farm Zana, doing those delirium mirror maps, there is probably a strategy there, and you would take Echoes of War, because it adds an absolutely massive amount of monsters to the map. 30 additional packs of monsters is about 4 or 5 sextants. It is pretty much 4 or 5 sextants actually. Actually, it's about 4. So that's actually crazy. It juices up your Zana maps like nobody's business. Very, very strong indeed. But yeah, the only real strategy I can think of here is the Delirium Mirror strategy. But it's fairly niche. I don't expect too many people to be speccing into Zana here. Most likely, people won't be speccing into Synthesis or Zana, and they're going to be focusing on the right side of the tree here. And yeah, we'll go over the kind of different formats and setups that you will go for now. So generally, for a mapping-based build, if you're in the maps, you're smashing the maps, your tree is going to be looking pretty much exactly like mine. You need to take Secrets of the Stones and Enduring Influence. As long as you're sextoning and having Watchstones in, most good mapping builds do want to go after this eventually, so you're going to go for those points. You're going to want to take Remnants of the Past. It's a nice, consistent moneymaker. And then if you're engaging with Cyrus or the Conquerors at all, you're going to want to take Adept Tracker and Atlas Awakened, as well as Thaumaturgical Awakening. That's going to be your 6 points. If you're not interested in killing Cyrus, you're going to want to drop Thaumaturgical Awakening and take either Neural Pathways or Close Allies, which is going to be very powerful for you. If you're looking at farming like Jun for Betrayal or Alva for Incursion, you can also drop the Thaumaturgical Awakening to just grab Close Allies. If you really, really want to farm Cyrus though, you can drop Atlas Awakened instead and get Close Allies. So that's going to be how it looks like. And that's going to be your mapping kind of setup. Generally, for bossing, you're just going to see everyone take 3 points in Shaper and Elder and 3 points in Cyrus. Those are kind of the go-to kind of look there. Most people just take that if you're a bosser, because it pretty much covers all your bases. It covers Cyrus, which is one of the endgame bosses. It also covers Shaper, Elder, and of course all the invitations pretty much, with the exception of the Synthesis one, which isn't too ran, honestly. So that's kind of going to be your allocation of points, guys. That's a quick explanation of the Uncharted Realms. And yeah, generally, as I mentioned, mapping tree, and then obviously that right part there is going to be your bossing tree. So with all that guys said, hope you guys enjoyed the video and it answered a few questions. Until next time, cheers.